Good afternoon, everybody. I think all of you know my name is Sid Melcher, and I'm Executive Director of the World Affairs Council of Western Massachusetts. I'd like to begin by thanking our sponsors for the Instant Issues series, Glen Meadow, Sir Speedy, and Wilbraham and Munson Academy, and also we remain always grateful to NAI Plotkin, which provides us with free office space as well as this fancy meeting space. I'd also like to thank Jeremy Cole and Jeff for recording this event, and it will be available on our website. I think you are all members, so I'm not going to tell you to be members, but if you weren't a member, or if you know somebody who's not a member, consider it. It's a great investment in addition to getting benefits like reduced admissions to our events and our spiffy emails and some other great things. You're also supporting, not that I'm biased, a great organization that helps Western Massachusetts appreciate its place in the world and introduce the world to Western Massachusetts. So we do have some upcoming events. We are pleased to again join with Temple Beth El as a promotion sponsor for their Bill and Lynn Fogel lecture series, which will be presenting New York Times bestselling author Bruce Feiler, May 7th at 10:15 a.m. At the Temple. Our next Instant Issues event will be right here on May 12th, which is coming right up really quickly, where we'll be featuring the head of delegation of the government of Catalonia in the U.S. and Canada, who will be speaking about Massachusetts and Catalonia strengthening a partnership. And right now, I'm going to hand you over to our board vice president, Dawn Creighton, who will introduce our speaker.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming. Isn't this space cool? This is the first time I've been up here. I am really digging this. Good job, Sid. Today, I am so thrilled that we have with us Jim Paul. He's the director of the Boston office of the U.S. Commercial Service, a division of the U.S. Department of Commercial International Trade Administration, say that 10 times fast, and has been in that position since 2001. Before that, he was in the Los Angeles area, where he served as the logistics coordinator for the Golden Beach, custom brokerage representative for Fritz Companies, and the international trade manager for the World Trade Association. Today, he will speak to us about the U.S. Department of Commerce and assisting Western Mass exporters go global. Please join me in welcoming Jim. I met Jim through my role when I was with the Associated Industries of Massachusetts. And Jim was always such a tremendous partner for us, connecting us with the different agencies, which he's going to speak to, so I'm not going to steal his thunder. But Jim really is a man of his word, and he's a connector, and he's helpful, and he loves it. And when you ask him for something, he's engaged and wants to do it. It's not like, oh, God, they're asking me for this again, unless he's really good at faking it, but I don't think he is. Jim?
Thank you so much, first of all, to Sid for inviting me. I was speaking with the World Affairs Council of Western Massachusetts we figured out about 10 years ago at a great event at Merriam-Webster, so it's great to be back. Thank you for everything you do on educating everyone on international issues. It's just a great instant access series that you have. And Dawn, thank you so much. I've worked with Dawn for many, many years through her role at the Associated Industries of Massachusetts, and we did a lot of joint counseling together. But it's great to speak with you all today. I'm one to try to stay on time. So I'll speak for about 25 minutes or so. But as Dawn mentioned, what I'm going to do is basically talk about how we work with different international organizations, a little background on our agency, what different resources there are, and also how we're really focused on Western Massachusetts and different rural parts of the country. And so, but look forward to answering any questions you might have afterwards as well. So to give a little background, as Dawn mentioned, yes, we have a lot of different organization names to our agency. So I'm the director of the Boston office for the U.S. Commercial Service, part of the U.S. Department of Commerce's International Trade Administration. We have another agency name, which I won't mention right now, just to further confuse you. But really our role as a U.S. federal government agency is to assist organizations with exporting. And so we want to increase the tax base, basically create jobs here in the United States, make companies and organizations much more competitive overseas. My role for the Boston office is covering all Massachusetts. So we have 4 staff that are located in Boston, but we do cover all parts of Massachusetts. So anything from North Adams down to the Cape and up to the North Shore, we're there to go ahead and meet with companies, organizations. We meet with them one-on-one to talk about whether all the export resources there are, different agencies that don't have the same presence we do, and other partners that can go ahead and assist them as well. We have 100 offices across the United States, so we cover all 50 states and U.S. territories. And really the main strength of our organization is overseas, where we have offices, 140 locations abroad in 75 different countries. They're mostly located at the U.S. embassies and consulates. And so we help organizations, anything from getting started. And so, for example, I got an email yesterday from a company that's been selling very well domestically. And they got a lead from Turkey. And so they didn't know what the export process was. So we help them walk through the process. We have great partners such as the Massachusetts Export Center, which is a small business development center, which also assists. They provide a lot of export training to help companies get started. And then we also help a lot with international market research. And so we have a lot of databases we have access to. And we also rely on our colleagues who are located at the U.S. embassies and U.S. consulates to provide a lot of market data in terms of what are the best markets for potential for certain products and services going worldwide. And so they provide a lot of this data as well. And we also have lots of other resources as well, really to help companies decide what are the best target markets. And so very often that we will go ahead and assist a company, maybe they're interested in Asia or Latin America, and they want to know, okay, which are the best countries? And here's why. And so we won't hesitate to go ahead and provide these recommendations, provide a report. We will do a PowerPoint presentation, whether it's visiting their facility. We do come out and visit companies one-on-one, meet with their team, and see their manufacturing process. Or certainly, we've been using Teams video and Zoom a lot for virtual meetings as well. And we will go ahead and demonstrate here what we see are the best markets. And then we'll also advise companies that might have an interest in a certain country, but then they realize, I'm not really sure. So our colleagues go ahead and confirm their interest or not, and see if there is potential. And our colleagues, being a U.S. federal government agency, we won't hesitate to go ahead and let that company know, okay, you're interested in Brazil. Brazil's not a great market. There's too much in-country competition. There's, the prices are too high for this market right now. There isn't enough disposable income right now in the market. So we recommend you looking elsewhere, which is really good information to go ahead and have. If there is great market potential, then what we will often do is we will go ahead and assist companies, go ahead and find those local partners. And so overseas, we have rotating U.S. officers that are located in the U.S. embassies and U.S. consulates there, and they supervise the local staff. So, for example, going back to Brazil, we have 4 offices in Brazil. So we have an office in Belo Horizonte, in Rio, Sao Paulo, and Brasilia. And most of our staff are local, so they speak Portuguese and they know the business environment, and they have lots of local contacts in various different industries. They will go ahead and set up meetings for local U.S. exporters. If they want to go visit, they'll make appointments with distributors or sales reps or joint venture partners in country, or certainly by video. What we're doing much more, really, I think as a result of COVID, is we realize we want companies to be much more strategic about their time and their expenses. So what we've been doing very often is setting up video meetings for U.S. companies with prospective partners in country and see how it goes. And then they might decide later on, this is a great market. I'd like to go ahead and meet with this distributor firsthand in country, or these sets of distributors or partners in country. We'll go ahead and set that up as well to make sure it's a really good market before they spend the time and the expense to go ahead and travel. We are seeing, I was mentioning to Sid earlier, we've been very, very busy lately, which is great, because a lot of companies are really starting to travel again overseas and build those relationships overseas. And that's what we're all there to go ahead and do, is to help them find those contacts. A lot of times companies will go through us, not just because we have the local contact, can make the introductions in a certain language, but also because an inquiry will be coming from the U.S. Embassy, U.S. Consulate, and heightens the credibility of the company in Springfield. ABC company in Springfield is inquiring. They seem to have a great market in Cambodia, in South Africa, in Germany, whichever market might be. And then that heightens the credibility of the U.S. company because they're getting that lead from the U.S. Embassy, U.S. Consulate as an introduction to the potential partner in those countries. We also do assist companies with due diligence check. That's probably the most underrated service that we have. Is we'll do like a Dun & Bradstreet type of report for companies before they sign any agreement with a foreign company and make sure that there's a great, the company is credible on the other end. And we also assist with anything else a company might need, advising on import regulations going into a certain country. And we refer a lot of companies to our various partners. So we have, for example, we have colleagues at different federal agencies like the Export-Import Bank of the United States. He's based in New York, but they have a lot of international finance programs for companies. He covers all of New England as well. And he comes out to go ahead and meet with companies too. Small Business Administration, they have terrific export financing programs as well, very different than Export-Import Bank, but between the two, they really help companies basically confirm payments from overseas vendors, overseas distributors as well. And there's many other agencies. We're very close with the State Department, certainly. Where we don't have a presence in the 75 countries where we're located, State Department will most often go ahead and perform our services as well in country. For example, Mongolia, I've been working with State Department in Mongolia for a certain company because we don't have a presence there. And they perform our services. A lot of countries in Africa where we may not have a presence, State Department go ahead and perform those services. And I wanted to mention just a couple of key sectors and what our latest intelligence is. So over the last number of years, we've been very focused on trying to increase assistance for the rural part of the United States and exporting. And so we have a Rural Export Assistance Center that's based in North Dakota, but it does cover all the United States. It's very fresh news we're very excited about. It was announced on one of our internal calls yesterday that they're hiring 7 new positions for the Rural Export Center that would be nationwide in scope, helping rural companies succeed internationally. And so a lot of companies are able to go ahead and use this service. They're the Rural Export Center, really merely as a tool for market research and counseling, helping companies decide what are the top markets for them, these rural companies. And it's very in-depth market research done by our colleagues in consultation with our overseas colleagues at embassies and consulates in terms of really deciding like where are the best potential markets. And they can provide a lot of assistance as well. And this is a terrific opportunity for us and very timely for my being out here today. But I've been working with Western Massachusetts for quite some time. We each of us, the 4 of us in our Boston office, covers a variety of sectors. And so my main 2 sectors are international education and also architecture and construction. So architecture and construction, we help companies win projects overseas. And so we have colleagues that are based in DC, their advocacy center, and also our colleagues at embassies and consulates. They help companies basically win bids and tenders for various projects. In fact, what's great, we have in our Boston office, we have a colleague who's based in our office who basically helps these companies directly go ahead and win projects overseas. She was very accessible in terms of meeting with companies that want to try to win those projects. In fact, we have 2 colleagues coming in from Israel and Ireland next week, and we set up appointments for her to go out and meet with companies that are interested in winning projects abroad. The other area is international education, and it's great seeing Deb Alm here again, because many years ago, there's a study state consortium started called Study Western Massachusetts. And so Deb was one of the founders who couldn't be here today. Also, Carolyn Gear with the International Language Institute of Massachusetts. They're based in Northampton, as many of you might know, and many other schools in Western Massachusetts basically got together and collectively decided this initiative of trying to bring more students to Western Massachusetts from overseas, because it's such a big economic driver and very much needed for all the schools that are out here. That's one of our main focuses, is helping the schools in this area recruit international students. And just to give you some numbers, so when you look at District 1, so Representative Neal, District 1, last academic year, there were 1,236 international students that came to District 1. And their contribution was over $60 million, just in terms of what they spent on tuition and living expenses. And that helped create or maintain 362 jobs, just in District 1. On a national scale, international students spent this last academic year, they spent $33.8 billion throughout the United States. And there's many other factors which international students spend, on travel and certainly a lot of word of mouth in terms of bringing other international students here and, restaurants and everything, and future visits by their family and friends to the area. And so that's a big initiative that we have. So Study Western Massachusetts converted in 2014 to Study Massachusetts. And there's still a lot of active schools that are part of Study Massachusetts in terms of collectively bringing international students to the area. And so we're very active in terms of various initiatives connecting them with foreign education agents and foreign government officials and parents and others to go ahead and bring more international students here. Similarly, we also work very closely on international travel tourism. And so, for example, next week we have another meeting with the Massachusetts Office of International Trade, Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism, which is very focused on bringing international visitors to Massachusetts. That's another big driver as well. So we have another meeting with them, with my colleague from Ireland, and we'll go ahead and talk about bringing more Irish and other tourists here to Western Massachusetts and other parts of Massachusetts as well. But that's another big driver as well. And for us, we have definitely seen in terms of trends that a lot of companies that they are focused on basically trying to increase their markets. And that's where we really come in. And so also a lot of countries are in the news right now, and they don't want to be as focused right now on one or two countries, just in case there is a global issue with that country. And so that's one of our main areas, is helping those companies decide, okay, what are the best target markets for them to go ahead and focus on in different parts of the world. So that way, help them go ahead and hedge their bets quite a bit as well. And additionally, what we bring in colleagues who are based in Washington, D.C. and elsewhere who focus on different industries. So even though we have 4 colleagues right now that are covering Boston, if a company, an energy company, is really interested in expanding overseas, we will go ahead and connect them with our global energy team leader, and then our colleagues who focus on that industry. And that's similar for healthcare, that's similar for marine technology, that's similar for ICT, for many other sectors. We'll go ahead and bring them in terms of specialized assistance and specialized care. Additionally, in addition to our federal resources, want to mention that there's many other resources here in Massachusetts. We've been seen as a model in DC with my colleagues or senior officials in terms of the collaboration. And so I've mentioned, not just us, but also the Export-Import Bank, Small Business Administration. There's also the U.S. Trade Development Agency, U.S. Agency International Development. There's additionally great Massachusetts resources as well. So I mentioned the Massachusetts Export Center. They're located in Newton, but they also cover all parts of Massachusetts. Additionally, the Massachusetts Office of International Trade and Investment. That's through the State House, the governor's office, whichever party it might be. Their office goes ahead and helps with reverse investment into Massachusetts from overseas. So in fact, they're going to be attending our event in DC next week called Select USA, which is a large conference with over 4,000 attendees, most of them from overseas, in terms of helping them basically invest in the United States and help create jobs here in the United States. So Massachusetts will have a big presence at that event as well, connecting with various entities from overseas. Moiety, Mass Office of Trade Investment, they also assist as well with what's STEP grant. It's called the State Trade Expansion Program. And that's a U.S. Small Business Administration grant that basically helps U.S. exporters be reimbursed for their activities. If they go to a trade show, they go on a trade mission, they want to translate their website, it's a great opportunity. It's a reimbursement grant that's available through Massachusetts. Massachusetts is one of the states that went ahead and won that grant. And so this past year, there was $500,000 available to Massachusetts companies as a reimbursement. And so they go ahead and help with that. Additionally, they receive foreign delegations. And so we're very close with them. For example, we have upcoming delegations coming from Bosnia and Herzegovina. We have many others that are coming into town as well. But for any of us, we do work very closely together, and so definitely recommend you go ahead and be in touch with any of us, and feel free to contact me, and I could go ahead and refer you to who might be best in terms of providing assistance. And I think I'm about 23 minutes, so I think I did it in 2 minutes to spare. So I just wanted to stop there and see any questions you all might have. So thank you.
Would you be able to give an example of a project you've done in Western Mass in the last 6 months or a year where you've been able to expedite that company to be able to export or do business in another country? And the second question is, do these companies have to pay you, or is this by the federal government picks up the tab?
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you so much for that question. I'm really happy you brought that up. So the companies that we work with, they're all confidential. Obviously, unless a company does go ahead and give us permission. And so I will cite 2 examples, one in Western Massachusetts, one in not Western Massachusetts. I think it's a great example. The first one in Western Massachusetts was, so she gave us permission to go ahead and tell the story, but many of you might know Carolyn Gear with the International Language Institute of Massachusetts. So she's a founding... Okay. I don't know if you want me to repeat that. Okay. She's on the board of directors. So she participated through Study Massachusetts in a virtual education fair that we had done with my colleague in Ukraine. And so this was right before the war started with Russia. But so a number of schools, a number of Western Massachusetts schools and other schools participating in this event. And what this event was we had up to 6 schools at a time basically give up to a 10-minute PowerPoint online through Microsoft Teams Video or WebEx, I forget which platform it might have been. And they did this PowerPoint online. On the other end were education agencies and other partners based in Ukraine. And they were basically recommended to go ahead and participate by my colleague in Kiev at the U.S. Embassy, who covers education. So a number of Ukrainian education agents went ahead and joined this event, and they heard and saw all these presentations. And each Massachusetts school that joined this event got all the contact information of all the education agencies, and vice versa. All the education agencies in Ukraine got all the contact information. And so Carolyn let me know after this event that they were able to recruit a Ukrainian student to go ahead and study at International Language Institute of Massachusetts based in Northampton. I'm not sure what that student went afterwards. Very often they do go to a partner school that's generally in the area, but that was just a terrific example of that. Yeah. Oh, excellent. So another success. Great. So at Springfield College, they also got another student. I know that Springfield participated in a lot of those events as well. And so that's excellent. So this is a great way for us. We've been doing a lot of these virtual events. And so another example I wanted to share is a longtime client. Soon after I started in January 2001, so now I'm dating myself. But it was soon after I started, a couple months, and I got contacted by, and this is another one where they said, go ahead and tell our story. You have our permission. There was a new export manager at the Perkins School for the Blind in Watertown, Massachusetts. And so Perkins School for the Blind, they obviously teach a lot of the people of the blind on their campus. But they also have these Perkins Braille typewriters or Braillers that they manufacture on site. And he was new, so he wanted some help in terms of understanding the export process and what was involved. And so I referred him also to the Massachusetts Export Center because they provide a lot of hands-on assistance regarding export logistics. And so he received a lot of training in terms of how to do it. And then we built trust with one another, and then he wanted some of our contacts overseas to further increase their global marketing to export these braillers worldwide. And so we went ahead and connected them through my colleagues overseas with many schools for the blind overseas that could really use this equipment. And so they did a lot of our programs they went overseas, we made appointments for them at the schools for the blind where we set up schedules for them to go ahead and meet and show the typewriter to them firsthand. And they also did another program called Single Company Promotion where they basically did a presentation to a large audience that was either at the embassy or at another facility as well. Then they had some customs issues because they were supposed to have a waiver in terms of any kind of customs duties going into countries worldwide. And some of the foreign customs wanted to charge a very high duty rate. And so they let us know, and that's where our colleagues in various countries went ahead and contacted their custom counterparts. And for example, in the Philippines, Millet wanted to charge very high customs. So we contacted U.S. Embassy in the Philippines, which was able to go ahead and talk to them and explain it, and then they were able to waive the customs charges as well. In a couple locations where we had U.S. embargoes with different countries, one was Cuba and one was Iran, that we referred them to the Treasury Department's Foreign Assets Control, because even though if we have an embargo, sometimes we're able to go ahead and have an export waiver where a company go ahead and sell medical or educational equipment still into that country. And so we were able to go ahead and refer them to that agency and provide those waivers, and we're able to sell those products to Iran and Cuba as well. So that's just one of the examples, not in Western Mass, but that's just an example of how we worked with a client in a variety of different aspects as well. The second part of the question asks about our fees. So we are mandated by the Office of Management and Budget to go ahead and charge cost recovery fees for companies. The good news is that for education, so we have variety. It's between small. There's a small business fee, a medium business fee, and a large business fee. There's so many schools in the area, and for any educational institution, even though they might have a large number of employees, we're able to get a permit waiver that they always pay the small business fee. But I'll give you an example. The program which I mentioned, where we set up meetings in country, it's called our Gold Key service. So if a company wanted to go abroad, let's say to, we'll say Brazil again, then for 1 day of meetings in country, if there are set up, it'd be $950 in terms of our outreach to all those companies, setting up a schedule, and then accompanying them to the various meetings to help with any follow-up. So that's just one example. Then we also do the international partner search, which is a little bit less money in terms of sending them a report and sending video meetings as well. And so, but the good news is that what I've mentioned, the STEP grant, a State Trade Export Promotion Grant, a lot of those funds can be reimbursed through the funding available from Massachusetts as well. So great, thank you for the question.
We saw how the world shut down, there was shortages, there was everything. How much have we been able to bounce back? Have we bounced back? Are we just doing things completely different? What?
A great question. So it really, so some companies, some industries, frankly, thrived a lot more during COVID, and some are still bouncing back. And so obviously when we're looking at, certain healthcare obviously that's done extremely well. And then beyond COVID, the energy industry, there's so much need right now, so that we're putting a lot more focus on the energy sector now as well. When we're looking at international students, it still has not reached the levels pre-COVID as well. And so what's interesting is seeing how companies are tackling it. So we're using, frankly, we got very fortunate because pre-COVID, we'd already using Teams video for about a month or two right before COVID hit. And so we were able to go ahead and, quickly adjust. And so we were very lucky with that. And so I think a lot of companies are doing that now. I mean, obviously they're doing that a lot now too. And I think just a lot of companies are much more efficient in terms of how they decide to go ahead and do it. What I could tell you is that we're very busy, which is fantastic, because a lot of companies are resuming their travel because they realize, okay, videos can only do so much. We really need to go out and meet with the companies firsthand and have them meet with us and show that we're serious by going to visit their country as well. So that's really rebounded in terms of companies going back out and going to trade shows, going on missions, meeting with distributors and other partners firsthand overseas. A lot of travel is coming the other way, where a lot of companies are coming back to Massachusetts. We're seeing that. We have a lot of delegations that are coming through to Massachusetts, and so which is great. And I think we're kind of getting hit all at once, which is terrific. And especially with, I think, the summer and better weather coming to visit. But it's within each industry, we've definitely seen there's different pockets of products and services, which have really seen great opportunities, and others haven't quite rebounded, or they're just doing it in a different way. Great.
Hi, I'm Jamie from M&T Bank, and this is like the most incredible session that I've sat in a really long time. So I want to say thank you to you for doing this. So you and I, yeah, I've only been, well, no, that's okay though. But so M&T Bank, I have been in downtown Springfield since 1997 as a banker. I've watched Springfield grow. And then kind of plateau. I ran our SBA department here at Bank of Western Mass for 6 years prior to. So very, very great relationship with the SBA. But I think, number one, you and I need to connect because what we need to do is get the message out here as it relates to this rural communities initiative that you have. Because I think part of the issue that we have in Western Massachusetts is that even someone like me who's been in the banking industry for 27 years, I don't know about all of these great programs. And Bob Nelson and I are friends from, way, way back, right? So I know about the great things that can happen, but I'm not in a position to do the best I can for the community here. So how can we, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but as you're rolling out your plan for Massachusetts, I would just ask, there's a revitalization in Western Mass. Yeah. There's there's always been a huge commitment, but there's a group of people here, most of which are in this room and continue on, that really, really want to see this be the time that Western Mass grows and flourishes under the new administration that we have, all those things. So how, is there a plan, is there a way to get the word out at chamber events? Is there something that, M&T and myself can help with, but really get the message out to the smaller communities about this rural program?
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, and very much appreciate your comments were recorded too, so that's great. No one paid me. So, I want to thank Sid again, because this is a great opportunity for me to go ahead and speak with everyone. And, honestly, we have a staff of 4 in Massachusetts. So we do try to get our word out as much as we can. So events like this, any other roundtable that we could go ahead and do, very much interested to go ahead and do that. We have had events like an export forum, where I'm happy to go ahead and organize it with any entity. And
Would you be willing to be a speaker at perhaps like the Franklin County Chamber or the Springfield
absolutely.
Regional Chamber,
Yes.
Holyoke Chamber, all of those things? Because I feel like your presence and your innate knowledge that you can bring in the immediate to a small business owner that's sitting in the room, that's even toying with it, if we can push five businesses over that hump and have, 5 stories about Western Mass, that would be amazing.
Absolutely, because for us, we love having active clients, and obviously that's our day to day. But so much of what we do is just about the outreach, and we want to make sure that the word is out that there are these resources available, just in case anyone, and sometimes we meet companies, and it might be through an event such as this one or another one, and we might get contact 6 months or a year or 18 months later, and they say, we weren't quite ready then, but now we're ready to start exploring, start thinking about it. And so it's really beneficial. And so absolutely, any of those chamber events, we do work with a number of banks, for example. We could do roundtables with their clients. We do, as Dawn knows, we did a number of joint meetings when she was with the Associated Industries of Massachusetts. And so talking about the various resources and really speaking on behalf of our partners, I know a lot of our partners through the state, Mass Export Center, Mass Office of Trade and Investment, the SBA, Export-Import Bank, a lot of them do joint calls with us as well. If they're not available, then I could certainly go ahead and speak on their behalf.
Thank you. And I have one last question, then I'll give the mic up, I swear. Have you connected with the Latino Economic Development Council in Western Massachusetts?
I have not.
I would love to make the introduction because
I
I think that would be.
I very much appreciate that.
I think that would be a fabulous
Okay.
connection.
Okay.
Hi, I'm wondering if you help sponsor or fund cultural exchanges? Because I'm a member of the Springfield Symphony Orchestra, and I'm a musician rep on the board, and one of the board members has a place in the Netherlands, and he's wondering about a cultural exchange for Liberation Day. That's a huge event in this town in the Netherlands, and he would like to take some of the kids that are in the youth orchestra and also some of the people in the regular symphony and do a cultural exchange, and especially for this Liberation Day. It's a year from September. So I'm just curious if you help fund or help with that kind of a cultural exchange, and then some of the Netherlands people would come over and play here too.
That sounds fun. On a personal note, my son does performing arts, so that and it's great, that type of cultural exchange. So we don't have funding. We don't have funding in terms of that type of initiative. However, our colleagues in the Netherlands at the U.S. Embassy, I know that they'd be very interested to go in and help with any kind of cultural exchange. Very similar to educational student exchanges, where a number of schools will have some type of educational exchange, like students going here and vice versa. As long as our agency is so export-oriented, as long as those musicians, the symphony students would come here to help benefit Western Massachusetts, then absolutely go ahead and assist with that. And obviously on a holistic level, there's nothing better in terms of having that global reach and enhanced global understanding. So I'd love to get your information as well. We also work very closely with the foreign consulates, and we're very fortunate that we have nearly 60 of them in the greater Boston area that do cover all parts of certainly Western Massachusetts and most of New England. And so, for example, the Dutch consulate is very active. And that's perhaps something that we go ahead and work in tandem with the Dutch consulate, because they would also have an interest as well. Great. I'd love to get your information, too, afterwards. Great.
Any other questions? Then I think we can wrap up. Thank you all. I have a gift for our speaker. You need to back up a little bit so I can get it. We have a copy of Assignment China, An Oral History of American Journalists in People's Republic by Mike Chinoy, who was our speaker in March. So thank you very much.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming, and I hope to see you at our next program. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you all very much. Excellent questions, too. Thank you.